wrists agonizingly painful, Mary paused for only a second before flinging herself from the rocks and into the water. During that second, she saw the glowing red eyes of the demon as it crashed out of the woods and onto the rocks. It did not seem concerned that it had lost its prey. On the contrary, Mary detected a vicious humour flicker across its inhuman features. The lake was icy cold, despite the fact that it had been a hot July day today. No, it's August, Mary reminded herself. The first day of August. Lammas Day. I'm going to die on Lammas Day. She could not swim. During happier summers when she'd visited the lake, John and Elizabeth had frolicked in the water, splashing each other and swimming so far out it almost made Mary's nerves burst, but she had always stayed on the shore, in the shade of the trees. Now she was in the water, and it was going to kill her, and in doing so, it would deny the demon her soul. She knew that killing herself was a sin, but surely God would see that she had only done so to avoid the fires of hell, and would take her to heaven in his mercy. But as she slipped beneath the surface of the cold water, she felt something grasp her ankle. She looked down to see a hand gripping her firmly. Then another hand appeared from the murky depths, and another, until there were hundreds of fingers wrapping themselves around her feet, ankles, and thighs. The lake water was cold, but the touch she felt on her legs was even colder, like 1,000 fingers of ice grasping her legs. And as the hands dragged her down into the watery darkness, Mary realized that the lake was not only deep, it was unfathomably so, for it led all the way to hell. 1. Arrival. Present day. July 25th. Here we are, Mike Wilson announced, trying to summon up an enthusiasm he didn't feel. Our new home. He parked the Kia Sportage in front of the low stone wall that surrounded the house, close to the black wrought-iron gate. Do we really have to live here, Dad? Jen said from the back seat. She'd looked up from her phone for the first time in an hour and was inspecting the house, a look of distaste curling her lips. It looks old. It is old, he told her, but that doesn't mean we can't make it into a nice home for ourselves. The truth was, Mike didn't like the look of the house either, but beggars couldn't be choosers, and right now, his financial status placed him firmly in beggar territory. He'd had a great job in London, heading the sales team of an advertising firm, but the firm had gone bust thanks to the owners stretching the company's finances too thin, and the whole thing had collapsed in a heartbeat. Mike found himself out of a job and looking for employment in a competitive industry that didn't seem to have room for him anymore. Terry was making a little money selling her art, but it wasn't enough to keep them afloat, especially with the exorbitant rent they'd been paying for their London flat. Their savings were being eaten up at an alarming rate just to pay for food and bills. It was Mike's Uncle Rob who had come to their rescue. Mike hadn't seen his mother's brother in years, but remembered him as a globe-trotting relative who turned up to the occasional family get-together with stories of exciting adventures in various parts of the world. Mike had been surprised when Rob had called him out of the blue, saying that he had a job for Mike if he wanted it. There was a house in Derbyshire that Rob had bought a couple of years ago as an investment. The property was vacant, and, since Rob was currently travelling in the Philippines, he had no way of giving the place the attention it deserved. He'd heard that Mike had fallen on hard times and offered him the house rent-free until he got back on his feet. All Mike had to do was tend to the neglected house and give it some much-needed care. Left with no other options, Mike had convinced Terry and the kids, and now here they were. Uncle Rob's offer had felt a little too much like charity, and that had left a bad taste in Mike's mouth. But now that he saw the house, he realised he'd have his work cut out for him if he was going to get the place into shape. Beyond the low stone wall, weeds and brambles had run rampant over the garden, strangling the life out of any flowers that may have once grown there. A flagstone path led from the gate to the front door, but this too had been...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.